And there was a big realization for me to realize that it's not the people. Human behavior is culminated. It's not something that's, ingrained. I don't believe greed is ingrained in a human being. It's culminated, just like bigotry.
Yes.
I think this is very important.
You're not born greedy.
Yes, not at all. You're not born greedy. It's a ludicrous concept. It's the system that we're put into. So we think it's normality when a business guy walks in and he sits down at a table, and another business guy walks in. One guy's trying to sell something. One guy's trying to buy something. Both of them are trying to screw each other over as best they can in order to get their profit margin there. That's just what the system is, and it's rewarded. So this type of inhumane action of differential advantage, which goes on every single day on multiple levels, that we think is normality. And what research really shows, especially if you look at statistics in prisons and things like this, they have to do whatever they need to in order to survive, and that is inherently corrupt, because in this system, everyone just chisels off each other. So you have what? What is the biggest industry in America? Well, one of the biggest is advertising. What does advertising contribute to society? Absolutely nothing. I mean, you could be poetic and say that, there's certain artistic things that come out, but in reality, all advertising is the invention of manipulative material to try to get people to buy something for somebody else.
To buy something, yeah.
And all an advertising agency does is leech off of big corporations. All corporations do are leech off of the consumer, and all us as consumers do are leech off of each other in these smaller realms of financial and labor-based systems. The system's not designed for humanity to actually live together. It's designed for people to compete and fight with each other. And, of course, if people, they hear that and they think to themselves, well, what's the alternative? It must be communism. And, of course, this is the black and white paradigm that also needs to be grown out of,
Peter, we're going to come right back. We're going to take phone calls and also talk about the Venus Project right here. Peter Joseph, producer of Zeitgeist and Zeitgeist Addendum. We'll be back. We're with Peter Joseph, writer, producer, director of Zeitgeist and Zeitgeist Addendum. Peter, the phone lines are jammed for you, but tell me about the Venus Project. What is that?
Sure. The Venus Project was started by a man named Jacques Fresco. It essentially is Jacques Fresco when it comes down to it. It used to be called Socio-Cyberneer, and you can see some old interviews with him in the 1960s actually talking about this. He's been pursuing this for a long time, and I'm really glad I discovered him, because what the Venus Project is a means of designing, or a philosophy that we need to begin designing a social system, that actually benefits humanity, that's actually designed to support humanity, that is, and most importantly, in line with nature, taking the scientific method and applying it to human concern. And this is something that has not been done whatsoever. Like, for example, we on this planet virtually have no idea how to even live or relate to the planet. We have things in philosophical contrast, like religion, which has this particular arrogance that wants to believe that the human being is special and it's not really connected to nature. But I get really depressed with people that look at science in a cold manner, because I think it's actually quite beautiful to realize that we are actually a part of nature, in harmony with it, and are susceptible to natural law just like everything else. And this is his core philosophical disposition. This is what the Venus Project is. The elimination of the monetary system, and I'm just going to throw these things out there for you.
Sure.
Because there's a lot of it that needs to be explained, because when people hear these things, they don't know they have no frame of reference, so it's difficult for most people to understand these concepts. But, the monetary system creates aberrant behavior. There's no reason for the monetary system anymore, because through technology and modern knowledge, we have the ability to create mass abundance of all of the necessities of life. And this is his biggest discovery. He's 92 years old in that film, and he's as lucid as can be. He spent his entire life dedicated to resolving and solving problems.
That's interesting. Not the frills, but the necessities of life, I guess. Big difference, right?
Well, there is, but the thing is that the frills of life, you tend to find these luxury items, that people are obsessed with in this culture.
Yes.
You tend to find that people have been brainwashed into this. I mean, there's no reason for a human being to respectfully want, say, a 40-room mansion.
and there's only one person.
Yes, I know. All this really excessive stuff that, unfortunately, we have in this culture because of the stratification of the profit system. Because, of course, the scarcity is inherent, and differential advantage is extremely important to the power structure. So the more money someone has, it becomes like a gambling addiction. The more property and money someone has, the more secure they feel. And, of course, there's other forms of psychological neuroses,
And the more they want.
And, of course, yes. And this is a big problem with this type of stratification that we have, because you're only as free in this system as your purchasing power will allow. People say we live in a free country. Well, that's nonsense. You're only as free as your purchasing power will allow. People say we live in a democracy. Well, if you really think about it, the only people that get into the presidency are the ones with the most money, and that is absolutely statistically proven almost 95% of the time.
That's a good point, Peter.
Just take a comparison of Obama and McCain. Obama crushed McCain in his overall financing, and which makes sense because he's a puppet for Wall Street, but we can talk about it later if you like to. But nevertheless, it's money rules, and it's never going to work. There's no ethics or decency in this type of structure, and this is a pivotal thing that he recognized. And it's so fundamental that when he first started explaining it to me, and I first started reading about it and thinking about it, I was kind of aloof. I was kept having the same type of psychological refrains that most would say, oh, it sounds like Marxism or it sounds like communism. But when he realized that his entire basis is first understanding that and then promoting the resolution, which is truly technology, which, if I dare to say, is our divinity, our ability what is a real contribution to society? It's not the economic structure. It's not capitalism. It's really our ability to resolve certain problems through technological development and human ingenuity.
But Peter, as long as we have the haves and the have-nots on this planet, a Venus project will never get implemented because these people are too selfish.
Yes. Unfortunately, the power structures are extremely selfish. But what is the caveat of this is, first of all, we're totally out of line with nature, and we're going to destroy ourselves. I wouldn't be surprised if we fall into a third world war as the economic crisis continues, because that's usually the pattern.
Right. I agree with that.
So when I think of what I'm like, for example, I have this thing I'm trying to do called the zeitgeist movement. See, I'm not paying any attention to the governments anymore. It's time that there's a grassroots movement, a focused ideology that all of the cultures of the world begin to start to realize, begin to understand. And this is, of course, extremely ambitious, but it's something I think that has to happen one way or another.
Hey, 50 million hits on a movie that you didn't think was going to be that big is pretty darn good too.
Right. Yes. Yes. Absolutely. So I don't restrict my personal possibility. I'm just aiming as high as I can. And
well, you get it, Peter. Let's take a few calls while we continue chatting. Okay. Let's go to our wild card line. TJ in Tucson, Arizona. Go ahead, TJ.
Yes, sir. Yeah, my question for your guest is: if we're not born greedy, how come 1- and 2-year-olds will steal and throw temper tantrums when they don't get what they want?
Good question.
That is a good question. It's a complex question, though, because kids are conditioned as well by their parents and their parents' behavior. And if you have a system of scarcity, for example, if one kid has something, another kid doesn't, then you're instantly set up with a scarcity. So one kid has exposure to something, another kid doesn't.